I really want some bees. And I really want to survive this mess that we're in. And I want you to as well. So come back tomorrow. We'll do it all again. Maybe I'll show you some people that, I don't know if it's walnut sauce or adrenochrome or what it is that they're into. But we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. You know, I'm really concerned about what Obama did in his 8 years to destroy our world. Because it wasn't just in the United States they were destroying. They were destroying worldwide, especially anything that had to do with God. They don't want you to know about God. They don't want you to know that Jesus Christ is real, and Jesus Christ walked the earth, and Jesus Christ performed miracles, and Jesus Christ is God, and Jesus Christ is coming back. They don't want you to know that. So since I told you, Moker, take us out of here. Peace.
When the trump was blown and the fake news grown, it flooded the people with lies they told. God appointed a new sheriff with a team called Q. Dissemination began to expose the satanic plot in their house of cards. But the Great Awakening was what the deep state feared the most. We must bring justice, though it's a hell of a thing. Put that fire right back on them. Make sure this will never, ever happen again. Many have tried, many have died. Too many have died. Take the swamp creatures down. Our hope was lost. So keep another more, kill the fire. He went underground. When Q came to town. Q came to town. Q came to town.
By the dawn's early light, a little tired, a little tore up, still hurting from the fight. And then it hit me. You ain't gotta pick a side. You can love your fellow man and still have pride.
Welcome to Common Sense on Patriot Soapbox 24/7. Real news, Q-posts, reviews, news analysis, and guest interviews. Indie News and Conscious Abe, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Enjoy the show.
Cause the stars and stripes are so much more than that old piece of cloth on your grandma's porch. It gave us that American dream to be anything that we want to be. It don't matter where you are, from a one-room church to an uptown bar. Don't care if you're black or white or who you love. I stand for the flag, and the flag stands for all of us.
You can find me on Twitter and Gab at conscious_Abe. Email for P.O. Box, PayPal, or feedback, abepsb at protonmail.com. Thanks for watching. Much love and Semper Fi.
Hi, I'm Derik from The Common Sense Show. You can check out my website at indienews.org, and you can also contact me at indie_news1@protonmail.com.
Cause the stars and stripes mean so much more than that old piece of cloth on your grandma's porch. You gave us that American dream to be anything that we want to be. And it don't matter where you are, from a one-room church to an uptown bar. Don't care if you're black or white or who you love. I stand for the flag, and the flag damn sure stands for all of us.
Good afternoon or morning, Patriot Nation. It is another week of broadcast excellence here on the Patriot Soapbox 24/7 live news network. This is the Common Sense Show, again, which is heard exclusively on the Patriot Soapbox 24/7 live news network. I am Derik, and joined with me, as always, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, is Conscious Abe. Abe, how is your Monday?
What's up, Indy? What's up, chat? What's up, everyone out there? Hope all is well. Happy Monday. Should be an interesting week ahead. A lot of stuff happening over the weekend. We have special guests in the house today, Indy. It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into some of those weekend headlines, you touched base on it right there. I first want to say that we have a amazing lineup of guests this week. In my opinion, Abe, again, and I'm going to be biased on this, but we have our week discussion. See, I'm so excited, I'm tripping over my words, but we have our weekly discussion with Todd Huff on Tuesday, so tomorrow, and then on Friday, if none of you were sleeping under a rock this weekend and didn't see the tweet that I put out. Not only, Abe, are we going to have our weekly discussion with Brendan Dilley on Friday, but I have landed a individual that I enjoy his work at The Blaze. He is the media producer at The Blaze. I know he's been on with Glenn Beck a few times filling in, but Chris Cruz, I don't know how many people follow The Blaze and the Glenn Beck show, but Chris Cruz is going to be joining us Friday along with our weekly discussion with Brendan Dilley as well.
Yeah, Andy, good work, man. It's I know you've been working hard behind the scenes. I've been having problems finding time to do other stuff with my son hanging out here with me. So it's been a kind of a scramble over here with the computer going down and everything else. But all the hard work that you've been doing behind the scenes, Andy, to get our guests get lined up, get great interviews, bring people to the soapbox, and give them a chance to get on their own soapbox, man. I really appreciate it personally, and I know everyone out there in chat really appreciates your efforts as well. So excellent work, Andy.
I completely understand. Cherish your time with your son, because I know you both have been away from each other for quite a while. But getting back to our guest lineup for today, coming on at the bottom half of the first hour. I don't know how many people live out in the great state of Texas. A little more in depth in the Texas's 16th congressional district. But we have coming on today, Sam Williams, who is going to be a candidate for U.S. Congress 2020 in Texas's 16th congressional district. He is a native of El Paso. He is pro Second Amendment, a veteran, pro border security, and he is America First, Republican through and through, pro-Trump and pro-Trump's agenda. So it is going to be interesting to hear from Mr. Williams in the bottom half of hour number one here on the Common Sense Show.
Very much looking forward to that. There is Indy's announcement there on his Twitter feed. If you guys don't follow India to get the news and a breakdown of what is happening here on the Common Sense Show, you guys should definitely do that and alert his Twitter feed so that you see what he has going on out there. Great news source for what's happening out there, and then you'll get a chance to keep up with what's going on with the show as well. We try to work hand in glove to get the information out there for you guys. Looking forward to speaking to fellow veteran Samuel Will. It's going to be an interesting discussion. I want to hear about the topics that the people in his district find to be most important during this time. Indy, can we talk a little bit quickly before we get into too much other stuff about Louisiana? What's your takeaway from what happened in Louisiana?
I think Ed Risponi, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He gave it a hell of an effort. I think he come up obviously a little short. Again, being in an off year, and I know we talked about this with the elections a couple weeks ago, but being an off year and not being a presidential election, I think that hurts people that are trying to unseat incumbents. But I do have to give Mr. Risponi a great effort. Just come up a little short.
Here's what's amazing to me on that race, man. All of the down tickets went heavy Republican. In fact, to the point where they have a supermajority in their House. So that's pretty huge. I don't know too much about Risponi, about how he potentially had rubbed local voters the wrong way, and how they would. It's very odd to see a ticket vote somebody out and then vote Republican the rest of the way. That's pretty interesting. I also wondered, what's your take on this? And I'm just kind of asking you guys out there in chat and you, Indy, do you think there's this impeachment garbage is having an effect at all? Is that possible?
I don't believe so, because I think the people see through this, especially with the testimony of Ambassador. Now I knew going to forget her name. The ambassador that Yakukovich that testified Friday. I have to give commends to Representative Christopher Stewart. And I don't know if you've seen that piece of audio or video, but he basically poked every hole you could have into her testimony. But no, like I said, I think people are seeing through this, and a lot more people are coming around to the fact that this impeachment inquiry is a complete railroad and sham.
I agree. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't have the time to truly study this the way we do. You have the media all in the tank for against President Trump. You have local media talking about this. You have social media being manipulated to talk about this. And I just wonder if here's my frustration, man. We all are beyond ready for D-Class to happen, for the next phase of the movie to start. We worry that it's gone too far, to the point where the manipulation of the masses is effective. I mean, at some point, right, you're going to have people that are going to be like, look, this just keeps happening. Every time I turn on my news channel, every time I see something, it has to do with Trump's corruption, right? And if people that don't really pay attention to this stuff, that spend most of their time watching Dancing with the Stars or football, pick one, that aren't that involved in politics, those people that don't really pay attention to this, all they are fed is a false narrative with regards to the Trump administration. I can't help but think that it has some effect. I think the effect that it had in 2018, Indy, was evident, based on the way that election turned out. And I hate to think that we're seeing some effect on that now. given the down ticket of what happened in Louisiana and the fact that they have a supermajority in the House, I it's kind of hard to argue that point. I'm just kind of like, I'm so ready for this to begin the next phase and for these people to be exposed for who they are. You have, Roger Stone basically being stonewalled into a whole lot of charges, and I think Stonewall's kind of a creepy figure. I don't necessarily think he's fully innocent with all of this stuff, but you have that two-tier justice system where no Democrat ever gets affected with anything. That stuff is people are gonna be disenfranchised and be sick and tired of this stuff to the point where they're just not gonna pay attention once we start seeing the real stuff come out. And I just can't help but think that it's having an effect. And I hope I'm wrong. I do, but and I see an agreement and a disagreement instantly. So it's I'm just throwing it out there what people think about it. What do you guys think? Do you think it's possible that this stuff is having an effect?
My opinion is, the longer that this goes, I think the bigger the railroad and circus it becomes to the American people. It's already that way now. Obviously, look at the people that testified, that Ambassador Yakovich, I believe that was her name, was asked directly by Christopher Stewart if she had any information or evidence that showed President Trump held funds or did anything criminal. And to both questions, she answered no. So that just poked a hole like a piece of Swiss cheese to me for her. But the longer this goes, I think the more the Democrats have to worry, because I don't think this is something that we have touched on here. And I don't know if it's been said on any other show, but think about this, Abe. How many Democrats now that are still in the presidential race or for the presidential nomination on the left are senators that, if this does go to the Senate, how many of them would be stuck in Washington having to be a witness for this impeachment trial if it goes to the Senate and wouldn't be able to go out on the campaign trail?
That's another probably intended consequence of this is, that affects everybody. That these people need that in the upcoming election year need to be talking to their constituents and learning what's on their mind and keeping in touch with them. I agree with you, Chad. That it's as far as it going to to the Senate, and is there anything really going to come out of this? Is there any, misdemeanors or treason or bribery? No, there's nothing there. I mean, but my point is that there's a lot of people that aren't really looking into this at a big level. They're just looking for headlines, and it worries me a little bit that this is having the desired effect that the Democrats want it to have. These people are really sneaky and really, really weaselly about the way they go about doing things. They know well how to manipulate the masses. Hell, they've manipulated Democrat cities for 50 years into voting for them when nothing ever freaking changes. I mean, these people are really sneaky. I don't want to ever underestimate the Democrats' party ability to garner votes and to get people to vote for them. And so I'm just kind of, I think it's an interesting discussion to have. Is there an effect of the constant hit of the media and of people being, social media everywhere being hammered with this false narrative? I see Eli saying good and bad days. It's tough for people to believe what the counter narrative when all they see is the other side. I agree. Skeeter says information is reaching a critical mass. Outrageous that even some mainstream media is under to keep it out of the general population. Good point, Skeeter. They're so overboard that it's becoming obvious for people. That's a solid point. Thank you for that. Stoley says GOP tells us the final decision on impeachment will belong to the people. When does the public have an opportunity for input, and what is it? I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. because the only thing I can think of is the 2020 election, Stolly. I think that's what the GOP is saying, because impeachment is in the hands of the Senate. This isn't a public. This isn't a public hanging. I don't understand what in the world they're talking about there. This isn't a. I mean, maybe what they're looking at is polls. If they're looking at polls, then they're doing it wrong. That's not. I have no idea, Stoley. That's an interesting thought, though. So, Andy, what do you think on what whether or not the public will have a say in whether or not President Trump is impeached?
I can't imagine and even begin to imagine what the nation, you think the nation is divided now. Just imagine if President Trump does get impeached. Think about those 63 million people that voted for him in 2016 that may be double for 2020. You don't think that there would be a public outrage, would be public outrage and an outcry and a march on Washington, D.C. if that were to happen?
I don't think they realize what would happen. I see the stealth bomber is there are several stealth bombers out there. I got some articles up. Keep listening. You might learn something. There are several stealth bombers out there, Durham being one of them, that are gonna shock the world with what they find as part of these grand jury investigations. The real grand jury investigations, not the fake ones that Mueller was doing. But look, man, it's we are right at the precipice of FISA being released, right at the precipice of major indictments being announced. You and I always agreed that this would be a long game. They're going to play this out over the period of the before up until before the election, to make people aware of what's really happened here, and that should properly motivate the disenfranchised. In the meantime, Aaron has done on the channel here has done a great job, Indy, of exposing how gerrymandering is happening with these governor races, and how they're able to manipulate the future of the Democrat Party. When they win these local races like that, it's possible Virginia could be lost forever. It's possible that these governors like Evers here in Wisconsin, one of the biggest weasels on the planet, could turn Wisconsin into Illinois with the way he can manipulate what happens here. And my concern, Andy, is that if the longer that they let this go and let them, quote unquote, hang themselves, the more races that end up being put into the balance or put into the hands of the left, the longer game is at risk. So there's a definite fine line there. We know it's in the hands of the president to decide when's best for to move to the next phase. And I just hope that we are right there, dude. Like really, really close to it. I hope we see it this week.
We've been clamoring to see something now for quite a long time. I think all the patriots here in the United States and around the world that have their eyes on this have been, more than patient, waiting for something to happen. I think we are getting to a boiling point. Something does have to happen. I know everything is timing and logistics, and President Trump has all the levers that he has pulled so far have been at the correct time and in a timely manner. So we'll just have to, again, do what we've always done: wait and see, and be those digital soldiers that General Flynn was talking about.
Oh, it's going to be a tidal wave of information when we get it out there. I mean, there's no doubt that the movement has grown as a whole. You still have their doubters out there, but they're always going to be doubters, and that's fine. It's people choose things from afar, and there's also factions within the Republican Party that are kind of coming to the light now too, with the alt-right hater big government movement that's pro-abortion. being exposed now too. It's really interesting to watch how that dynamic's playing out, because President Trump has his base is so diverse in people. It comes from independents and even some Democrats that have walked away to kind of central-minded, libertarian-minded people like myself who lean conservative on social and fiscal issues, but don't identify with the far right of America, who are Jew-hating, abortion-loving, big government-style people who make no damn sense whatsoever. They might as well be libtards. You have the religious right, who is big part of Trump's base, who I don't necessarily always identify with their things personally. I'm talking about me personally, how the dynamic plays and how I see it. It's amazing to watch that tent has grown for President Trump's supporters, Andy, and it is. The left is kind of in shambles right now with the way they go about things. The left is really becoming exposed for their radicals, all being part of the cause. It's really interesting to watch that dynamic, how it's playing out in America right now.
Yes, it is very interesting. And to get back on what you were talking about with the Republicans, it's interesting to watch as the Republicans, for the longest time, never had a backbone, and they really kind of took a back seat to Democrats. Now it's interesting to see Republicans slowly gaining a backbone, and I think it started with when they had the impeachment inquiry vote, and you had all but 3 Republicans stand up and say they're against this. And it's just a breath of fresh air to see the Republicans actually fighting back for once.
It is. And the one thing that I'm impressed with is how it has united the House and the Senate, really. Republicans voted in lockstep with each other that this was a farce that they wasn't going to let happen. They weren't gonna allow their voices to be used for this false narrative. The Senate has been in lockstep, doing amazing work with judges and doing very hard work out there as well. I think we talked about needing the 16 Democrats. You and I have always suspected that there would be a major splinter in the Democrat Party with regards to these 32-ish districts that were Trump districts in 2016 that voted Democrat in 2018. We need 16 of those defectors. They need just 16 if it comes to a vote in the House to defect. And I think we are going to definitely see that dynamic play out. I do believe. Are you with me on that? Do you think we're going to see a major splinter in the Democrat Party?
I think that's a twofold answer. One, I think you're going to see a major splinter between the old established Democrats, which is the Nancy Pelosi group, and I think you're going to see a new Democrat socialist group kind of led under the wing of Bernie Sanders and AOC. That would not shock me to see that. And the second part of that question, talking about the congressional districts that President Trump won in 2016, that representative that was Democrat voted in favor of the impeachment inquiry. It would not surprise me to see if the Republicans can get half of those numbers. I think there was between 25 and 30 that voted in favor of the impeachment inquiry that President Trump won their district in 2016. It would not shock me to see the Republicans get half of those or 3/4 of them. That wouldn't shock me the least bit. Speaking of congressional districts, we were talking earlier in the show about our special guest that we're having come on. He is in here a little bit early, so I don't want to hold up and take up any more of this gentleman's time. He is a native of El Paso, Texas. He is a pro Second Amendment. a proud Texan, a veteran, pro-border, pro-President Trump and his agenda, and a great Republican through and through. Who we have with us now is Sam Williams, who is running in Texas's 16th congressional district in the upcoming 2020 election. Sam, it is a pleasure to have you on the Patriots Soapbox. When you go to talk, make sure you unmute your mic, because I know that trips up a lot of people. But it is a pleasure having you. And how are you doing this afternoon? Your unmute button is going to be down in the left-hand corner.
All right, can you hear me now? We'll do the Verizon thing.
Yes, sir. You are 5 by 5, as we say on here.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm glad you guys had me on today. You know, we scheduled this in just because we didn't have a whole lot on Monday. We had a 10 o'clock meeting and then nothing else this afternoon. So, I mean, getting on here is great because we need to reach people and let them understand that El Paso is actually a conservative city that has voted blue for the last, 54 years, roughly.
What kind of dynamic change? Welcome to the show, Sam. It's a pleasure having you here. We wish you the best. We will do whatever we can to get patriots like you a voice and get on your own soapbox, so to speak, bud. Tell us how things have changed. Well, tell us a little bit about your history first, man.
Well,
what happened to you? Where have you come from, and what have you done prior to wanting to run?
Well, I spent 30 years in the United States Army. That's my basic background. I've been retired since 2013. Living here in El Paso, we retired here because of the climate, the weather, no natural storms or anything that really hit El Paso. It's actually a pretty great place to live. But the problem is it's the Detroit of the Southwest right now. I mean, we've been running to the ground since 1965 was the last when they started voting blue. And you can see what that has caused here. We've lost all of our manufacturing. Part of that was indicative to NAFTA, caused the bulk of the manufacturing to leave El Paso and start the downward spiral of El Paso.
So being a El Paso native, and you were realizing after coming back from your military service, which I thank you for, and the Patriots thank you for as well. What made you one day wake up and go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run for the Congress. Or for the Senate? Excuse me. Yeah, I was right. So what led you to that point?
I just looked at the way our country's headed, and with the people they've been electing here, this seat was vacated by Robert Francis O'Rourke for his 2018 run against Ted Cruz. And some of the stuff, he put a lot of effort into, I don't know how I want to say it, make it sound so it's not too belligerent, you might say. But he sat on the House Armed Services Committee, and we don't even have a VA hospital here in El Paso. Yet we do have one of the largest military installations, but we have a VA clinic. And he was on the House Armed Services Committee for 6 years and couldn't even make that happen. Yet he wrote legislation supposedly for veterans that never made it out of committee. And looking at that, it tells me that these people aren't up there to represent their constituency. They're all up there to make a name for themselves and fill their own pockets. And that's what we've seen here in El Paso. I mean, O'Rourke's a real rich guy now after dropping out of the presidential campaign, which, he never intended on winning in the first place. I think he just got in there to try and stand on that stage because of the crazy thing, I'm going to take your AR-15s and your AK-47s. The guy owns weapons himself, and he's out there, spewing that he's going to come take yours. Well, that's the wrong answer. We're allowed to have our firearms. That's part of being an American. But what I see here in El Paso is that it's been run into the ground. And nobody that's been in Congress since 1965 has even attempted to try and improve the quality of life here in El Paso for the people by bringing in some good jobs. The county commissioner who happens to be, or the county judge who happens to be our now congressional representative, Veronica Escobar, actually kept Toyota out of here from building a truck plant right here in El Paso that would have brought us 2,000 well-paying jobs. Roughly about $20 an hour per person would have been the average. And this is what's been happening. We're a service-based industry here in El Paso, and that's not a sustainable economy. And our infrastructure is destroyed. I mean, just the street in front of me, we're sitting here in the car because we just left that other meeting. The roads, they beat the crap out of your vehicle, and they're not even trying to get federal money to help improve the infrastructure here so that some large business could come back into El Paso. We also have a big educational problem, and this is throughout Texas. Texas has independent school districts where each independent school district lobbies the state for money for education. Well, we have 9 school districts here in El Paso County. Those 9 school districts combined spend $1.5 billion on education. And I did a comparison with the Miami-Dade district in Florida, which spends about $1.2 billion, but it's one county, one district. The Miami-Dade district has 347,000 students. They spend $1.2 billion a year, and they're able to fund all of their teachers' retirements without reducing their retirement when they get to Social Security age. Their kids are outperforming our kids here in El Paso by 20% on SAT and ACT scores. And we only have 157,000 students in El Paso County. But with these 9 independent school districts vying for power and students to get more money from the state, our education system is actually being degraded to the point that our kids aren't learning anything. And the biggest excuse you hear here is that it's a bilingual problem. I don't think that's the issue. I don't think it's a bilingual problem because the Miami-Dade district's actually dealing with 4 languages, and their kids are still outperforming ours. We have to push the state from the federal level to get the school systems under control because they're out of control in their spending. Our property taxes are exponentially higher than the rest of Texas based on these 9 school districts. And we're still not getting the education quality that we're paying for.
It's a problem nationwide. I grew up in Detroit area, lived in Illinois. I've seen what happens when Democrats control cities. They run them into the ground. We've talked on the channel with proof, not just spewing, about the purposeful manipulation of the demographic via sanctuary cities and how that has manipulated many of the demographics in the areas around America. When you talk to the people of your district, when you hang out at the bar, when you go to church, whatever you happen to do, when you discuss with people about their concerns, what do you think is the top 1 or 2 concerns that they see as things that need to change or biggest concerns as they will go out and vote here next year?
Yeah, well, here in El Paso, it's the border issue, the illegal immigration is a big issue here. The educational system's another big issue. The meeting I had this morning was with some charter school people because they're not indoctrinating the children in the charter school systems. They're actually educating them and trying to get those kids to excel. And that's the thing. And education does start at home. Parents need to take responsibility for the education of your children because it does start with us. But people think that they're here. The biggest problem that they see is because of the corruption has been entrenched so long. They're so afraid that their vote doesn't count. And we try to explain to them, and the way we talk about it in the military, you got to break it down to them Barney style to get them to understand that their vote does count. Because when they don't vote, they're giving the person that they don't want in office 2 votes. And it's a simple math thing. If you don't vote, your vote doesn't count. And, they don't understand that their vote is their power over the people. And a lot of them are afraid of elected officials, and I don't understand that. They don't understand that an elected official, you're an employee of the people that elected you, and you're accountable to them. With our system right now, like people in Congress, if they're not performing, they're there for 2 years. They stay there for 2 years, and they're never held accountable for what they're doing up there. Look at the number of bills that have been passed to the House floor this year alone, and how much. I mean, if people would read those bills or just look at the titles on those bills, they would be enraged about that, because it's crazy. There's over, I want to say we're pushing 5,000 bills this Congress already has introduced to the House floor, which 90% of those will never make it out of committee anyway. They just load the system up so they don't have to work and pass good legislation that's going to do something for the people.
Yep, it's all about keeping their power. They brag about passing 200 bills that are worthless garbage that are never going to go anywhere. They don't work with bipartisan nature to get stuff done. It's all about protecting their power.
Right, and I think that's where being a veteran, being a long-serving veteran, serving in the military for so long, we had to work with a lot of people we didn't like or didn't get along with, but we had to work for the common goal. And I don't see that with what's going on in our government today. 40, 50 years ago, the bulk of the people in Congress had been to war. They were used to working with people they didn't like because we had a common goal to meet. And the common goal is for the American people, not for the independent, for each of the parties. And the parties are what has caused us to fall and separate. Like the Democrats right now use everything about, they'll say African American, Mexican American, Asian American. Why can't they just say we're all Americans? Because if you're born here and naturalized, you're an American. That's the bottom line. We're one nation. It doesn't matter what color you are or where you came from. We're still Americans. You go anywhere in the world, and the first thing that somebody calls you by the way you speak is they're going to tell you you're an American, period. They don't care what color you are. But what's happening now is the Democratic Party especially is taking and giving rights to these splinter groups of people. Right? They're still Americans. We're all afforded the same rights under the Constitution, regardless of what you believe or whatever. The rights are the rights, and we shouldn't give other rights to small groups of people that infringe on somebody else's rights. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The asylum process has loaded our immigration system down so bad that it's almost unbearable for the people that are having to, go through these asylum applications. I was talking to somebody that works for ICE last week, and at the peak of the mass migration of people from Central America, they were trying to process each person, 500 cases a week. That's an awful lot of workload. They're down to about 40 to 50 now. But out of those 500 cases that they were processing, less than 10% of them were even able to show any type of credible fear. They're just, this system, whatever happened with these caravans, whoever funded it, pushing these people here, it was designed to overload our system so these people would get lost out in America and just fall off our radars because they're not going to show up. When you got 1 million cases, it got to be heard by, I don't know how many federal immigration judges there are right now. We have 4 locally. And one of those, what's really odd about that is one of these immigration judges here in El Paso, his wife is our congressman. And she is, she's never come out and said she's for open borders, but with her actions, she is for open borders. Yet he's one that's adjudicating these cases, which I find to be appalling to have someone in Congress that has direct influence over a federal court. These are things we have to stop in this country.
Agreed. I don't think any of us have ever seen anything like what's happening in America right now. Even I'm only, 46 years old, and just thinking back to my childhood and how things have changed. It's amazing to see what's happened. Talk about how your First of all, thank you for your service.
I did it to keep my boys from having to see that kind of horror.
I hear you.
War is not something that I would wish on anybody, but I think that there's people in this country that are trying to push us down that path for a civil war. And when that happens, if that were to happen, it would be just ungodly here in the United States. We'd go from being the biggest, most powerful nation on the planet to just nothing overnight.
Well, they know they can't beat us militarily in a shooting war, right? They know they have to subvert us from within, and that's what we're seeing happen, something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime.
Yeah, the one thing that I can tell you that our military is great at, we can whoop anybody on the planet without fail. The problem is don't have us go fix what we just destroyed. And that's what we saw with, in Iraq. We saw the same things. We're not a nation builder. That's not our job. Our job's to win wars. And, you look back at what happened with Iraq. Should we have been there? Probably not. But that's here nor there at this point. And once you destabilize a government, we shouldn't rebuild it, but we should allow the people to stabilize themselves before we withdraw. And Obama pulled us out knowingly that we knew about ISIS in 2004, that they existed, and that when we pulled out, he was briefed that we would leave a vacuum in there and they would take that vacuum and become the controlling interest in Iraq. And that's what they did. You start a fight, you got to finish it. And that's the thing. And you can't keep tying the hands of the military when they do their job, or worrying about the decisions that are made on the field. Because if you're not directly in that fight, you have no idea what's going on, even if you're getting radio messages and traffic of people telling you what's going on, but you're not seeing it firsthand. It's just like President Trump pardoning those guys over the weekend. I think that was a great idea, because there's a lot of commanders out there that the only thing that they were worried about was the status quo. We had targets that we needed to execute that we weren't allowed to execute because it might upset the status quo and keep that guy from getting promoted or something. But if you killed somebody in a firefight, there was always a commander's interview, an inquiry afterwards. And a lot of people don't realize that every time that we got in a firefight, there was a chance that one of us was going to jail, or possibility, because our commands didn't stick behind us. And that's one of the other things. We had some great field commanders that did, but I saw it firsthand where we had a soldier on an ECP in Baghdad that shot a guy. It's midsummer. He's got a jacket on, and they told him to stop. He didn't stop. He kept coming. This kid shot him, but we had a commander that wanted to fry this kid for doing his job. It was a great thing that a senior commander stepped in and squashed it. You have to let the military do their job instead of restraining them. That's one of the issues that we have right now, that they politicize the war too quickly.
It has always been the downfall of military action, is when politicians in their silver cup do things from afar. The rules of engagement that Obama put into place was an abomination. What happened to Clint and Gallagher and the other gentlemen was an abomination of justice that we had advocated for on the channel.
Because that lieutenant that they put in jail was because he didn't have the support of his command behind him, even though he was protecting the men he took into combat that he was responsible for. And that's one of the biggest things. When you put guys, when you're a leader and a combat leader, you're responsible for the lives of those soldiers. Your mission is to take the objective without losing anybody or having anybody hurt or killed. And
can you imagine?
We do our best to save our own lives. Because when people are shooting at you, it comes down to you versus them.
Can you imagine having your brothers, while you're in a war zone, be hit by a bomb, and the bomb maker being arrested, sent to custody with the foreign government, and then released by that foreign government, only to come back and taunt you? Can you imagine what that would be like? I can't. I know what I would do if that happened to me.
I've actually seen it happen. That's the problem. It's like trading the 5 Taliban commanders for Bergdahl. Bergdahl is a traitor. He was a traitor to the United States. He left his post, period. And then we had soldiers go look for him that were maimed and killed looking for this guy because he went and I honestly believe the guy turned himself into the Taliban and was working for him the whole time because he was in an awful good shape. Most people that get kidnapped or whatever, taken prisoner in the Middle East don't survive it. And that kind of makes you wonder about what happened with Bergdahl. Because he was only one man and he was a private when he got captured. So he really wasn't worth a whole lot other than being maybe another fighter. Because he's not going to have the access to the operational plans that a senior leader would have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The stuff that was happening there with purposeful and knowingly trying to hinder the efforts of the U.S. troops, and then knowingly leaving a vacuum to support the Iranian government so that they could come in and take over says a lot about Brennan's ties, about Obama's ties. It's a disaster about what happened. And I don't know if you've seen what's happened recently in Mosul and other stuff, and seen how the troops are working now since 2016. It's an impressive use of military force and a collaboration with local forces on the ground. Very impressive.
It's huge. I know. I have friends that have been there, recently, and that's things are going well. We didn't have time. The first mistake we made going into Iraq, I think, at the end of once combat operations were supposedly stopped, was disbanding the Iraqi army. That was a huge mistake because if you look back to World War II, even though we had prisoners of war, the German army, we used them to secure their own country. These guys are trained. They can do the job. They just want to get paid. They just want to go home to their families. They're soldiers too. We do what we have to do as soldiers based on who the commander is. And I think that had a lot to do with what was going on. But as soon as they lost their jobs, they became the insurgency because they weren't getting paid. They went to the people that were paying their salary.
It's a really important discussion, and it's you and I could probably talk for hours just on that as well. It's when you talk about how the mistakes that were made, it really makes you, when you look back at it, you see how there's just no way they could have not known the consequences of the decisions they were making. You look back at Schwarzkopf and his decisions. All of these things, just something doesn't add up proper to what had happened there. But what we're seeing now is a historical injustice to the people of Iraq being righted now, and it's very impressive to see what's happening there now.
Right. I mean, they're out protesting their government and everything else right now. It's just that the dangers that follow that, and you got to give those people credit because that's a very dangerous situation to be in there because they don't have the same value for life that we do. They've been at war for. You got to look back. We can't really fault Saddam Hussein a lot for what he did in his country because talking with some of the Iraqi officers that we worked with, they well-educated people, and they were like, the bad part about this is the only thing that the people understand is you have to be extremely forceful with them to make them comply with whatever you need to have happen. And, a lot of people don't understand that. If you've been under that kind of pressure your entire life, you don't know anything else. You only understand violence to settle something. Here we're used to being able to sit down and negotiate at a table, which obviously in Congress is not happening now. There, it's all about we're gonna bring down the president of the United States. That's ridiculous. Whoever's in that office, and I had to work under 5 presidents in the military. Did I like all of them? No. Some of them I actually despised. I had to work under Obama, and his policies in a battalion that I was in. After I left that battalion, I had 5 friends killed because they couldn't go outside and patrol based on Obama's policies because they could not defend themselves. They couldn't go out, and they were on a joint base with Iraqi and U.S. soldiers. And they set up what we called an IRAM, improvised rocket munition launcher system, and launched 6 203-pound explosive projectiles into a housing area at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And that killed 5 guys instantly, wounded another 25 or 30. And it also Sent one kid back to Bethesda who died 1 week later after returning to the United States because we weren't allowed to defend ourselves and protect our own, do our own security around our own wall. These are things that happen because of bad policy when politicians get involved in our warfighting capability.
That's the amazing thing that President Trump has done since he came in. He has pulled the handcuffs off of and the blindfolds really off of the commanders on the ground. And I got to have a ton of respect for President Trump for what he has done to unleash the power of the U.S. military.
Right. I mean, and here's the thing: you have to trust your commanders on the ground to get the job done. That's what it's all about. I mean, President Trump doesn't have a military background, but he's obviously listening to people that do to let us do our job. It was like people getting upset about him pulling the 50 operators off the Syrian-Turkish border. We're going to leave 50 guys out there with the Turkish army coming through? I don't think so. It's not a bad idea. Not that our guys probably couldn't have kicked some serious butt, but why are we going to risk their lives? Let the Turks do what they're going to do, and let's figure out how to shut them down. And that's exactly what happened. That the Kurds that the Turks are going after aren't the same Kurds that are in Iraq either. And people don't realize that. The PKK, we even classify as a terrorist organization. Yet you hear the Democrats screaming about we were leaving allies out there. Those guys aren't really our allies, even though we help them for the common goal. They're still not trustable folks that I want to be working with.
Damn right.
Guys working with.
I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know if I'm sure you're aware of Mike Doran. He's been on the forefront of trying to inform people about the truth about what's happened there in Syria. And you're right on point there. There's a bigger dynamic there about what's happening with regards to these Kurds and the problems that it's caused, the purposeful, by the way, problems that it's caused by bad policies from the previous administration.
No, you're exactly right. And I had to work in those policies, even though I retired, almost 7 years ago. I was right there at the forefront of his policies of, tying our hands. And all that trickles back here to the United States too, because if you don't handle them there, we're going to fight them here. They're already here. People don't realize that. And they're being allowed, Islam isn't just a religion. And I think that's where a lot of people are misinformed. It's a religious political system. And if you don't comply, most of the punishments, if you read in the Quran, are death, regardless of what it is. Yet it's the governmental system there. And people don't seem to understand that here in the United States because they've lived under a security blanket that's been provided by the U.S. military for so many years that they have no idea what the rest of the world is about. The world is not a nice place, and they could care less about America. And you start bringing those problems into this country, they're going to manifest themselves, and we're seeing it already. I'm sure that there's a lot of other things that don't make the news media that we don't hear about. I know that for a fact that it happens. Talking about the border wall, we do need a border wall. Now, I ran last in 2018, and I said we didn't need a border wall in the city limits of El Paso. And the reason I said that was because we already had one. Why replace something that's already working? But there are many areas out there that we need to put the wall up first, where Border Patrol tells us they need that stuff. Because if you can funnel people into one target area, it's a lot easier to control. And they've done that here somewhat. Over the summer, they put in a small section of wall, about a mile, that was on private land. Now, if you're going to build a wall for this country, I'm going to tell you that's a standard that I would have liked to have in Baghdad 2008, 2009, when we had 26 miles of wall that my guys had to work. Because a wall doesn't stop everything, but it's sure a good deterrent and gives you time to get there. But this wall that they built in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, it has a road with it too where you can actually action a target if you have to very quickly. A lot of people don't realize our CBP agents are working by themselves out there. One guy, one woman, vast stretches of our border. We have a big border with Mexico. And it's not the Mexicans that are coming in. The Mexican cartels are working the border, but they're using the human trafficking to make money. In 2017, that was a $150 billion industry, not counting the contraband industry with the drugs and stuff, with the drug trade. And if they're using technology, a lot of the guys that work for the cartel are professional soldiers. And I don't think people realize that. And that's why the Mexican army is having such a problem trying to squash them, because these guys have the same kind of firepower as any other military unit. And they fight back because you're taking their money. And that's what we're seeing right now. If you look at the news media, the news that's coming out of Mexico, the cartels have raised up because we've secured our border a lot better than it has been in recent years. And we've cut out their money. So militarizing the border, we need to work with Mexico and possibly set up, to me, I would set up a demilitarized zone between the two countries till Mexico can get their act together with controlling those cartels and get them out of business, and because they're very, the corruption there is as bad as it is anywhere in the world. But if
I
we
think
can control that, we can fix it.
I think this has been an amazing conversation. I do want to hit on, though, before you have to jet out of here.
Yes, sir.
Tell the people a little bit about your campaign, what your platform is, and then how people can get a hold of you and follow you on social media.
My platform is America First overall, and empowering the people, putting our voice back into our government, because that's what's missing right now. The people have no say, even though they vote. They still don't. The ones that do vote don't have any say. We've got 10% of the population controlling the country, and we've got to fix that because we all have an equal say. Education is one of my big things. Border security in general for the United States. Our economy here in El Paso is something that's near and dear to my heart as well. Getting people back to work, because we still have fairly high unemployment here in El Paso because it's a service-based industry. And we're up against a Soros-funded candidate as well. We figured the numbers that have been given to us by different analysis, we're going to need between $1.3 and $1.5 million to get Veronica Escobar out of office. Because getting that message out, the Democrats pay for everybody on the street that they have talking to people. We just, as conservatives and Republicans, we tend to stick it on our wallet and don't understand that just being on the street every day by yourself, you got to have an army out there, and we need to be able to hire that army and get this message out to people. Because our biggest problem is raising money, and they can donate through WinRed. We're using that. They can go directly to our website, which will take them to WinRed, and our website is samforep.com. And our phone number, our address, everything is listed there on the website, and it shows what we've been doing. But we really need funding, and I tell people, don't give politicians a lot of money, because we can do this with small donations. We just need a lot of them. $7, I've got 27,000 followers on Twitter alone. If they gave $7, that would put us in great position to defeat this woman and get the media coverage that we need, get the commercials on TV, get the airwaves covered, because that's what we're up against. Just 9 weeks of radio is going to cost, and we don't get as many mentions. It's $7,800. A billboard's $6,500 a month. People don't realize how much this stuff costs, and I'm doing this out of my military retirement fund. I only make about $3,000 a month in retirement from the military, and I get about a little bit more than that from VA. So that's what I live on, and I'm running my campaign off of. And I really need some financial support out there, but we can build the army here if we can pay them, because we have so many people out of work that if we put them to work, they're going to support us, and we're going to be able to make the changes that are necessary.
Sam, I have to commend you. I know what you're up against. I did a little bit of research. That lady is definitely Soros funded. You're right on that. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. And anytime that you want to come back on here and maybe give us an update on how you're doing, funding wise or campaign wise, you know how to get a hold of me.
We've got your information now, and Rick and I both appreciate you reaching out to us, because we'll take any media coverage or any chance we get to talk to somebody and let them know what's going on in El Paso. El Paso used to be the crown jewel of the Southwest. Now it's the Detroit of the Southwest.
Man, I really appreciate your time, Sam. I appreciate your service and all you're doing for our country. It's people like you, man, that step up to the plate and see a problem and go fix it. And I hope whatever we can do, man, whatever we can do to help you, we'll get your website out here. Let me just show that for everyone here, and then I'll give you a last couple words here. The website is samforrep.com. Check it out. Give Sam, donate Sam a couple bucks. Help him out over here. Patriots like him need all the help we can get. His Twitter feed, Vote Samuel Will 1, at Vote Samuel Will 1. Check those two out, and you guys can get in contact with him, help him get the word out there. Sam, what are your final words for what do you want to leave the viewers with today before you leave?
If you want to know what's going on in El Paso, follow me on Twitter, because every time that my 2020 opponent, does something crazy or puts some crazy information out there, I post it straight to Twitter and what I think's wrong with it. If it's something good, I'll retweet it too, but I haven't seen it yet. We have to keep our country moving forward. And with these socialist policies of the far left Democrats, that's not. Their thing is to put us into a global government, which is not good for anybody on this continent, especially in our country. We're a sovereign nation, and we need to remain a sovereign nation. I think that's probably my final words, but the website again is Sam, FOREP. It looks like Sam for Rep, but there's only one R in it. So we got to let people know that, because people will hit Sam for Rep. I almost did that, but my last campaign manager in 2018 keeps your web address short because it's easier for people to remember.
Sam for EP, samforelpaso.com. I'll drop that out here in the chat some more for you guys. My bad. Thank you for correcting me on that. And thank you for everything, man. And please come back and give us an update on how your campaign's gone.
Yeah, whenever you want to schedule us, man, we'll work it in somehow. Because I was so happy you reached out to me over the weekend.
All right. Yeah. Like I said, I will. Yeah, I'll reach out to you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again, Sam.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that was Sam Williams, who is running for Congress in Texas's 16th district. We've put his website and Twitter account in chat for everyone. I will put it in there one more time, so everyone has that. Go there, represent Patriot Soapbox, and back a good American and a good patriot as well. It is 4:05 here on the East Coast, and you are listening to The Common Sense Show, which is heard exclusively on the Patriot Soapbox 24/7 live news network. I am Derik, and joined with me, as always, 3 to 5, Monday through Friday, is Conscious Abe. If you are listening for the first time, well, you tuned into a hell of a show, I'll tell you that. But if you are listening for the first time, there are a few things that we do ask of you. First, number one, if you would hit the subscribe button. If you are listening or watching on YouTube, the reason why we have you hit that subscribe button is that helps us here at the Patriot Soapbox with our push towards 100,000 subscribers. Number two, again, beside the subscribe button, there is a little red bell if you are, again, listening or watching on YouTube. The reason why we want you to highlight that bell is from time to time, the stream does go down for maintenance or meeting reset purposes. When the stream is back up and running at full capacity, you'll get a notification telling you that the stream is ready to be listened to again. And number three, if you would smash the like button, again, if you are listening or watching on YouTube. The reason why we have you smash that like button is that shows that the content of shows being put out here on the Patriot Soapbox is second to none, and it also helps the Patriot Soapbox be easily more searchable for new subscribers. If you are a returning listener or if you've been here since day number one, we appreciate you oh so very much. We love you just the same. And again, without you, the Patriot Nation, none of this on this channel would be possible. So with that being said, I'm now going to turn things over to Abe for his News Blitz.
You know how it is on Mondays, Andy. There's always so much on the weekend that happens. I'm going to try to get through this as quick as possible. There's a couple of topics maybe we could spend some time on after the News Blitz this afternoon if we get time as well. So let's hop straight to it. Big stuff happening all around the world over the weekend, guys. This is a network connectivity display of what's happened to the Iranian internet as of the weekend and continues till this time now. 5% of the internet working. Attempts to shut down the protest and silence what's happening there in Iran. A huge story, and I know that the State Department, President Trump's administration, is monitoring this very, very closely. Sorry, monitoring that very, very closely. A lot happening in Iran. Let's get to all of the News Blitz here today, guys. Kuwait's ruler fires the son over feud with a fellow minister. We saw last week that some other news came out of Kuwait with regards to their local government being kind of something happening there with that. So something big there is happening in Kuwait. We know that some of the funding through to ISIS via UAE and Kuwait, Qatar, whatever, has gone through Kuwait as well. So something big happening there in Kuwait as well. We'll keep an eye on that. Supreme Court temporary blocks release of Trump's taxes. The Supreme Court ruling that he does not need to turn over his taxes at this point, overruling a lower court ruling as they continue to harass and target President Trump. It is just getting so freaking old, man. These people are really pathetic on another level. Civilians killed in eastern Congo by suspected Islamist militants. There's two stories here coming out of Africa talking about how Christians and a church was targeted. And then again, another big problem here in Africa. It continues. It just does not seem to stop. But I know that there are special forces troops on the grounds there in Africa trying to handle that problem there as well. So God be with them. Plane with Hillary Clinton aboard over the weekend grounded at LaGuardia after a mechanical issue and it caught fire or something weird happening on a plane there for Hillary. She ended up boarding another plane and making her trip to D.C. I just want to know why she's in D.C. I would love to know the answer to that question, but I'm glad she's okay. Federal prosecutor targets Chicago's violence. We have talked about prosecutors being put into place to handle major problems all around America. And we know behind the scenes that this is happening and all over the place. In Arkansas, there is a special prosecutor happening there. New York, Buffalo area, SDNY, all over the place. There are special prosecutors working to solve problems. Major issue here with Chicago. Those of you that have watched as Ed Burke and his cronies have been targeted. You're gonna want to read that story. Check that one out. Big news story over the weekend. Iran cable, 700 pages of secret spy reports were released to New York Times and The Intercept. This is a massive, massive drop. I don't know what's in all of this stuff. I haven't had a chance to dig on it yet. I had a busy weekend. However, I hope that there are plenty of people digging in on this because I got a feeling that there's a lot there on that front. So check that out. Interesting news story there. Iranian protests. Orange dots are cities where protesters have burned government institutions. Mike Doran, as we talked about there with our guest Sam, you can see the protests are not isolated incidents, so to speak. Massive protests all through Iran. We know there's major protests in Iraq as well, but just a massive news story here. God be with the people of Iran that they may finally get their freedom they deserve, freedom from the oppressors. It is an amazing times we live in right now. The story that we talked about there with our guest Sam as well. I have been a personal advocate for Clinton Lawrence and the three that were freed, and President Trump worked very closely with advocates to try to get these guys. What really happened to them was a disaster. And I just want to show you this quick video here of Clint's homecoming when he was released from Leavenworth. And I'm just going to mute that just in case. But more so is the pictures of Clint being home. Clint's case was one of that was a tough one. I mean, I'll be honest. It's not easy to get behind some of these guys. But look, these guys are in war zones. They have to make tough decisions right off the bat, and for politicians to criticize from afar is a disaster of justice. And just God bless Clint and Gallagher and these other guys. I have the story up here. I'll name the other gentleman here as well. White House hopefuls are missing Senate votes, and nobody seems to care. News article out of Politico talking about how basically all the top candidates have not voted since July in any of the Senate cases, and Clown Schumer says it doesn't really matter, but I don't know. Don't we send them there to do their friggin' jobs? And they've basically just abdicated their duties there. So go figure. ABC News and Epstein story, and an update on that as well. If you guys want to learn more about the Amy Robach leaked documents and the person, they're going after the person still who leaked it, and not talk about the actual news story. That's typical for ABC and CBS, but an update on that is there as well. A bishop, priest, and 40 others killed at a Central African Republican church at a refugee camp. So this was part of the Africa story that we just talked about over the weekend. A horrific story about Christians being targeted again. It just never seems to stop. And I don't know what to say about it other than God be with the families and those of the fallen. Key points: court rules the entire emergency. This out of Hong Kong, big news out of Hong Kong over the weekend. I'm sure many of you that were monitoring the situation there saw all of the protests and the big stuff happening there as well. The regulations put into place to not allow people to wear masks was found to be unconstitutional, and emergency powers were limited. This is a big news story because the Supreme Court in Hong Kong upholding basically the Constitution and freedoms. This story is going to continue to play out more so in the future as well. I have a feeling that's a big thing happening there in Hong Kong. So good stuff there. Check that out when you get time. Conservatives seek to stifle new alt-right movement steeped in anti-Semitism. This was what started off my little bit of a rant this morning, talking about, I don't know who this weasel is, Nicholas Fuentes, who thinks he's a 21-year-old kid who doesn't know crap. And he's going after, and I don't know anything about Charlie Kirk. I don't know anything about Dave Rubin, these other guys. Dan Crenshaw, I know, is a veteran. But this weasel is a alt-right weasel who believes in big government, who believes in weird things like anti-Semitism and stuff like that. There's just, the ignorance of these people is on another level, is really very sad. And the way that he's been manipulated, it is really kind of sad, to be honest. And these 21-year-old kids who are trying to become more active, I think we should give him a little bit of leeway, but this Nick Fuentes kid has some issues that I would really love to talk about more, but whatever, it is what it is. Security alert in Mexico, Nuevo Laredo, an important topic here. And I thought I had the map up here, but this is basically in south of Brownsville, Texas, that area down there, just south of that area, with a travel warning in place on the major highways, and some major violence happening down there. So something big is happening down there in that sector of Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. So I just wanted to point that out, a travel alert down in Mexico, and not just there. If you happen to be traveling down to Mexico, please do be careful. Here's the bigger part of that as well. Please note the entire state of Tamaulipas, including Nuevo Laredo and Highway 85 is designated level 4, do not travel. So something big happening down there as well. And I do have it here. Here is the area that is discussed. that there is something happening in Major Alert. And then a breakdown of that district as well. Brownsville being here. This is the Texas area, and Laredo. So something big's happening down there, and I'm not going to speculate at all, but very interesting news story there, to say the least. All right, China takes over Kenya's largest port and unpaid Chinese loan. We talked about this, I think, last year. Yeah, this was 12/27/2018 when we talked about Chinese loans going out to countries, and then they can't pay them, and then they basically seize their assets. So you have Kenya's port being taken over by an unpaid Chinese loan. This was as of 12/27/2018. Today, you have China bought the most of Greece's main port now, and what makes it want to be the biggest in Europe. China infiltrating the One Belt One Road and infiltrating Greece now. A major news story that should send shockwaves around the world. I don't understand how this keeps happening, but it does. Yay. Former U.S. President's brother, Neil Bush, implicated in a cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme. Well, you know who the most people around the world, the most population around the world that does cryptocurrency? None other than China. Neil Bush implicated in a Ponzi scheme where big amounts of money were manipulated and so forth. The news story is interesting if you want to read more into it, but the headline itself should say enough. The first American citizen in Guantanamo, and I think the only at this point, Majid Khan, has a major trial this week and a major rulings potentially this week. So keep an eye on what's happening down there in Guantanamo. But the fact that he is a citizen of America is an interesting story, to say the least. If you want to learn more about Majid Khan and how he was helping to fund militants and working with them, is an interesting story, to say the least. You might want to check that out. Entrepreneurs seek business opportunities between China and New Zealand. Yikes. New Zealand and China in the news again. You can see this is somewhat centric around China because they are not stopping. Nothing will stop their attempted world domination, and they're going full force in what they're trying to do there. This is a breakdown of how China and entrepreneurs in New Zealand are working together. That's an issue, to say the least. Trump administration makes healthcare in rural areas a priority. A very important news story here on how President Trump is working to help rural areas and healthcare. Now, one of the biggest narratives from the left, false narratives from the left, is how rural healthcare is a problem. That news story there talks about how the administration is dealing with that legitimate problem without using government to solve it. Interesting discussion there. Complete list of Soros organizations. Diamond and Silk dropping a bomb on everyone over the weekend. If you guys want to see more about Soros and what all he has his hands into, check that out. Last few before we turn it back over to Andy here today. Clinton Charity confirms Qatar's $1 million gift while she was in the State Department. No one talking about that. An older news story. Just wanted to highlight it once again. He's just promising free money to win votes as the Democrat candidates talk about Andrew Yang, freedom dividend, a paycheck to every American. And then you have Bernie, free healthcare, Elizabeth Warren, free college. It's amazing how they try to buy votes, isn't it? Anyways, a budgetary discussion of the cost of war. $6.4 trillion since 2001 has been spent on the cost of these wars post 9/11. I wouldn't even want to guess how much money that has been wasted. An important breakdown of the cost of war by Watson Institute. If you get a chance to want to find that information, just search budgetary cost of war and 6.4 trillion. You'll find more information on that. Just wanted to highlight that. Here is an example of $1 trillion, just to put it into context. Many people, including myself, were curious what it looked like. Here's 10,000. Here's a million. Here's 100 million in a pallet. Here's $1 billion in $100 bills in stacked pallets. $1 trillion is double stacked pallets that big. That's give you an idea. Now do that 6 times and you understand how much money's been wasted on these wars. Checking in over at justice.gov here. to see if there's anything breaking as of today or over the weekend. Looks like there are a few that just came in today. A speech by Jeffrey Rosen, Indian national charged with aggravated sexual abuse while working as a U.S. military contractor in Afghanistan. Yikes. Former Westminster police officer pleads guilty to sexually assaulting an individual. So 2 news stories there out of justice.gov. Checking in over at patriotsoapbox.com to see what's happening over there. Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein did not kill himself movement. Sophia Remington with a new article up there on patriotsoapbox.com. Shifting the focus, former Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch on Capitol Hill, a article discussing that by D.G. Dane. And then Lynn Wolf with a new article up there about exorcisms and demons. How do demons get in? And Cole's article up there from a couple days ago as well. If you get a chance, spotlight an article on patriotsoapbox.com and share it far and wide. Let everyone know they're producing original content on there. All right, that is your News Blitz on this Monday. God bless you all. Hopefully you found something in there you found interesting on this Monday afternoon.
Let me add one to your blitz. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but this is a local story, Abe. Comes from Fox 59, which is the Fox affiliate here in Indianapolis. This broke this morning. FBI arrests Muncie Mayor Dennis Tyler on theft of government funds charge. So I don't know if you seen that this morning or not, but according to the FBI, agents executed an arrest warrant, and Tyler is now in custody. The Tyler administration has been under scrutiny for years now as investigators conduct a federal corruptions probe. Interesting how the mayor announced earlier this year that he did not plan to seek re-election.
Interesting. That is very big news story for sure. There's several like that have happened. Just kind of, it's amazing how it never gets coverage though, right? I mean, it seems like you only hear it on either our channel or other alternate medias. It's funny how that works. Let's see, Middle of a Dark Night with tagging me out there. Nick's Charlie Kirk. I don't know, man. You know, the work that Charlie Kirk has done to engage young people has been impressive, to say the least. So while he may have his flaws, I think Charlie Kirk has done more to engage young people than Nick the Hater has. So I'll leave that at that. The alt-right movement, in my opinion, is might as well be a part of the liberal libtard movement. It's a big government. They support abortion because they don't want poor babies. I mean, what kind of people believe in something like that? I don't identify with it all. Mighty Fine, thank you for your kind words. As always, nice to see you out there, man. Hope all is well. Hope you had a great weekend as well.
And to add again to the News Blitz, looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average like we always do, and Abe, we're at another high. The Dow Jones Industrial Average today closed at 28,036.22 and up 31.33 points. So again, another record high for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and congratulations to President Trump and his administration for not only making America great again, but making the economy great again as well.
Market's been very, very strong since the last Fed chair announcement, Indy. That's it's interesting to watch how the media talks about the potential crash of the market and all this stuff, and the realities of how strong the market has been going into the winter consumer spending season here, and watch how that changes as well. So interesting to see how that happens.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think we'd be remiss if we did not do there. Well, we did have some Q posts over the weekend as well, Abe. I don't want to forget about those. We had one that came in, looks like on Friday, right after we went off the air. That would have been 35.98. And then it looks like we had about 4 of them on Saturday, from 35.99 to now up to 36.02. I'm curious if you have a way to go over these to help people understand them a little better, because the last one we left off with at 36.02, I'm having a hard time not being a Star Wars fanatic like some, drawing a comparison as to why Q would put the link for the game for the Star Wars Commander game in the 3602.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. It's and hop in if there's if you want to add something or correct me on something that I'm saying here. Be happy to be corrected if I do say something that people don't agree with or something like that front. 3598, as you discussed, came in Friday the 15th. It's a link to Stormy Patriot Twitter feed here, talking about whistleblower traps and the infiltration, secure, exposed to harm, so forth, how they are trying to have whistleblowers manipulate the information and basically plant inside the government. And we know there are plenty of them placed in there through Brennan and Clapper and the rest. Globalists that are trying to subvert policies of the American people that have been there for decades, if not longer. It shows that post and says whistleblower traps March 4th, 2018. Trap keyword select provided. Whole or parts, break. You have more than you know. Future proofs past. And I'd have to do a dig more on it. If you just search either traps or whistleblower traps, you can find more of a picture there of what Q is pointing to there on that front. The biggest, I think, in my personal opinion, these two here are the two biggest posts from the weekend. 3599 came in on the 16th. The harvest crop has been prepared and soon will be delivered to the public for consumption. I think it's a reference to D-Class and the truth of what's been happening. A higher loyalty, why? Obviously, a shout out at Comey. Why being a link to the Satanic Cabal and Soros and the globalists, Rothschilds, the rest of them. I think that is pointing to what Comey's higher loyalty is to the globalist Satanic Cabal. Hunters become the hunted. Treason, sedition. How do you remove a liability? 6 o'clock can be very dangerous. Is your family proud? Clearly, a almost a direct post straight to Comey, and talking about his actions while he was inside the government and where he is at now. How do you remove a liability? Well, you silence it. Ask Epstein how that happens. 6 o'clock can be dangerous. I've seen many different interpretations of what that means. All of them probably have some truth to them. To me, it's just very simply watch your back, buddy, because you keep going in the route you're going, and you're going to end up like Epstein. So that's my personal take on that post there. The higher loyalty definitely meaning to Soros, globalist, Satanic Cabal, for sure. That is what Y has always been. 3600, there's no escaping God. For those who decide to save the taxpayer some money, there is no escaping God. A potential reference to Suicide Weekend, an interesting topic there. As we watch as these indictments become dropped and the realities of their futures in jail and or worse come to light, we will likely see these people either have health issues or something to that front. And a video of Michelle and Barack Obama during a 9/11 ceremony, talking about all this for a flag and the truth behind Michelle and Barack's hate for America. Q just simply says, many who represent us do not love us. And boy, is that true. And then the one you just referenced there just a minute ago, Indy 3602 came in, Star Wars game app. How to select bad actors, attempt comms without signal intelligence, collection, rebellion or empire, private invite only, factions, dark to light. And this has been a previous reference to them using different games to communicate. You've seen them use like poker games, Xbox comms, all kinds of different ways that they think they can sneak through signals intelligence. In my opinion, though, I think they are limited to face-to-face. That's been a previous discussion there by Q talking about face-to-face. If they are still using games like these, like Star Wars game app Commander to try to talk to each other, boy, are they making a big mistake, because that does not bypass NSA data collection, and they're only further incriminating themselves on their own treasonous activities. So I think it's a fight between how they are still trying to communicate to each other, and whether or not they are talking face to face to bypass the bypass NSA data collection. If they're not doing that, then they're even dumber than we already thought.
Yeah, that's true, and I completely forgot about the secret communication. While you were doing that, I want you to go look at President Trump's newest tweet, because don't tell me that he doesn't listen to this show. Look and see what this says.
You gotta love him. I'm sure he checks in with people on the ground all over the place every now and then to see what people are talking about, what's important to them. 50% approval rating about a half hour ago. Thank you, MAGA
Nope.
CAG.
Go to the next one. What were we just talking about?
And then a market break. Great news for MAGA and CAG. An update on the market, as well as you just discussed, a new record of the NASDAQ and the Dow. President Trump just now tweeting that out as well. So good stuff there for sure.
And again, we were just talking about that, and then all of a sudden that tweet comes out. No coincidences.
It's funny how often that happens. But so there you go, Indy. Any takeaways from those Q posts at all? Is there anything that you disagree with my interpretation of them, or do you think I try to represent them well? Because I know there can be contention in the way these things go. People look at them differently, and I'm not always right either. That's for sure.
I think you're pretty spot on. Like I said, the one that stuck out to me the most was the 3602, because I clicked on the link and I was like, what the hell does this have to do with Q? And I didn't even think about the private communications. That's a good point you bring up there. It is 4:33, so we have about a little less than a half an hour left. The phone lines are open if you want to get into Discord. We have great pre-screening voice people in there waiting to screen your call to make sure that your audio is working. So if you want to call in and talk about maybe one of the stories that Abe touched on during his news blitz, or if you want to call and talk about the Sam Williams, who was our guest in the bottom half of hour number 1, this would be the time to do so. Remember, if you did miss any of today's show or any past shows, you can always go to the Patriot Soapbox YouTube archive channel and find every show that you are wanting to listen to, past and present there. Or for the Common Sense Show, you can go to indienews.org, and there is the copy of the show from today, and any articles that we went over you can find there as well. So 2 great resources in case you came in late and missed our interview with candidate Sam Williams, running for Texas's 16th congressional district. So yeah, we do love our callers that call in from the Patriot Nation, and this would be the time to do so, as we have about 20-25 minutes or so until we have to turn the reins over to Pam, or 412 for Freedom Rings, Radix for Digging Deeper, and great shows coming on this evening as well.
I wanted to touch base. James, nobody's homie Comey. You guys are in a good mood today. That's good to see. Hope all is well out there. Much love to you all. I wanted to touch a little more on that rural healthcare strategy, Andy. It's a very important topic. It's when I did a lot of debating and discussion with people to try to understand different perspectives on healthcare and why people thought that the government could solve problems with regards to healthcare. One of the biggest things that they would talk about is how rural healthcare is a problem, and I can sympathize with that. I think when you have the consolidation of hospitals and the consolidation of healthcare and insurance companies, people get left behind, sometimes purposely and sometimes accidentally. So I honestly think that Secretary Azar, President Trump's administration, and their strategy here is not only extremely important, but it should be a major news story. Let me just go ahead and read these couple of paragraphs here, because I think this will lay it out for you guys why it's so important. The Trump administration put this strategy into action by announcing changes to improve how Medicare pays hospitals. This policy, which started in October, increases payments to certain hospitals in low-wage areas, including many rural hospitals. On average, rural hospitals in Tennessee, for instance, are seeing a 3.6% increase in Medicare payments as a result of these changes. By implementing these changes in Medicare payments, coupled with changes we made to make it easier for certain rural hospitals to train medical residents, rural hospitals will be better equipped to maintain their healthcare labor force and ensure that patients have access to high quality, affordable healthcare. Now, I realize that all sounds good, but in practice, it is very, very effective. And it's not just throwing shit at a fan and hoping that something sticks. It really is an effective, addressed, well addressed, pinpointed action that will indeed help the healthcare and improve the access to high quality, affordable healthcare in rural areas. Based on the thousands of comments we received on these proposals, there was widespread recognition of the challenges faced by rural hospitals and agreement that Medicare payments should be modernized to support hospitals in low-wage areas. Hospitals with some of the lowest payment rates in the country were concerned that poor payout was contributing to hospital closures in their areas. That has been a major problem under Obamacare, actually, that no one really talks about, is hospital closings as a result of a centralized healthcare system. A 41-year-old veteran nurse who worked in a rural hospital was worried who would take her place in caring for patients. For far too long, rural hospitals have been left behind, and we must do better. The Trump administration is delivering on our commitment to ensure all Americans have access to the system that delivers high-quality, affordable access to health care. Our beneficiaries living in rural areas deserve nothing less. So just a quick couple of paragraphs that really explains it on a more in-depth level on why it's important. And President Trump has been touting that they will be seeing major changes in the healthcare as time goes by here. And when you can't get anyone in Congress to do their jobs, the fact that the Secretary Azar and President Trump is doing targeted things like this to really make changes that will affect people's lives on the ground is an amazing feat. And you gotta give them credit. You have to give them credit for what they're doing there. This is a very, very important discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. I did see someone out in chat earlier was talking about the upcoming President Trump rally, and I wanted to touch on that for people that may not be aware. The Trump campaign has announced another rally, and it's actually going to be a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, November 26th, in Sunrise, Florida. I have to look this up on a map, Abe, because I'm not 100% sure where exactly. Sunrise, Florida
is actually down right where I used to live, Indy, down there by Pompano Beach, Fort Lauderdale area.
Okay, so anybody in those two areas that can hear us here on the Patriots Soapbox, President Trump is coming to a town near you again, Tuesday, November 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Sunrise, Florida. It looks like it's going to be at the BB&T Center, which is 1 Panther Parkway, Sunrise, Florida, 3323.
That's a pretty good size stadium down there, Indy. That's 20,000 seats is told. So yeah, that's going to be fun to watch for sure. It's interesting to see how many people he can get down there. Andy, real quick, I saw someone asking about my ribs. Bam. There you go. There's them with the glaze on them. They turned out delicious. About a 4.5-hour smoke and a 2-hour wrap with my glaze on them. They were amazing, and my son is going to miss them, I guarantee you.
Well, since he's going to miss them, can I have his portion?
Absolutely. I will definitely cook for you if we ever get a chance to hook up, man.
Absolutely. Those do look pretty delicious. But yeah, if you're within the Sunrise, Florida area, make sure you get on to donaldjtrump.com and sign up for your 2 free tickets that you're allotted. And remember, that's Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow, November 26th. and looks like President Trump is going to be slated to speak around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're not able to make it to Sunrise, Florida, always remember you can keep your listening device locked here to the Patriots Soapbox, because we are one of the few channels that are authorized to carry right side broadcasting stream of the rallies. They do a tremendous job in covering them. So if you aren't able to make it to Sunrise, Florida next Tuesday, just keep your listening device again locked here around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you'll be able to see your president, our president, and everyone's president, President Trump, make another campaign speech in the BBT Center in Sunrise, Florida. We do have a little less than 20 minutes or so. Doesn't look like we have anybody that wants to come on and join the conversation. Again, we're calling out for people that want to come on here for the last 20 minutes of Monday's show and talk about maybe a news story over the weekend that me or Abe has not covered, or if you want to have a comment or throw in your 2 cents about the guests that we had on here as well, this would be the time to do it. Abe, is there anything else with the remaining 15 minutes or so that we have left that needs to be covered here before we turn the reins over to Pam or 412?
Actually, not really. I'll check in on my alerts here. A.G. Barr's speech over the weekend with the Federalist Society. If anyone gets time to watch that speech in its entirety, very, very, very important speech. A.G. Barr was... he did not mince words. Let me just put it that way. And the reaction by the left said everything I needed to know about the speech, because they were highly triggered from it. A.G. Barr is, I don't understand how there's a lot of people that don't have any inside knowledge about what's happening in D.C. and stuff, but they make judgments from afar on people based on, I don't know, something somebody said somewhere or something. I don't know. I don't understand it. But there's no way President Trump would appoint A.G. Barr to the Attorney General if he did not think that he was the right man for the job during this time, this critical time in history. So that speech, Indy, is must see. And so definitely, if you guys get time, just do a quick search for A.G. Barr's Federalist Society speech and spend the time to watch that. It is must see, and he is not playing around. He's not playing games. I got a Patriots song up of the day up, Indy. Be Ready by Abby Cook. It's about a 4.5-minute song. I can jump to that unless you are seeing anything else that's breaking on this Monday afternoon.
Nothing right now, but I do want to comment on that speech. Yeah, definitely. As soon as that came out, I tweeted that out, because that's A.G. Barr is definitely not a guy to mess with, and B, he is definitely not messing around at the least bit.
I mean, the things that he's done in the past, you can look at him as part of the swamp and whatever. You can look at him as part of the establishment, but the things that he's done in the past to address the problems with organized crime, I mean, that's basically what we're up against. We are up against a globalized organized crime syndicate with Hillary Clinton and Soros and big banking behind it. It's I think he's the right man for the job. I think we're going to find out very soon how that's happening. I have a feeling, Andy, we're going to go into Thanksgiving with a lot to talk about with the family, and people are going to be kind of up in arms about, they're not going to really believe everything they've seen. So it's going to be our duty as activists to help people understand what's happened out there and be as gentle as possible. Not told you so, I told you so, but be as gentle as possible with helping people understand what's happening.
Oh, I think you're absolutely correct. You still have to, not put it down their throat, ram it down their throat, but continue to, feed them that red pill. Maybe put it in their turkey or in that mashed potatoes or my favorite, sweet potato pie. But yes, it definitely a lot more red pilling to do, but the longer we get in this, the more facts and the more proof you have to back up, what you were telling them at Thanksgiving a year ago.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. So with that, be ready. Be ready, everybody. Have your facts ready. Have your memes ready, and be gentle as well. Abby Cook, be ready.
Follow the white rabbit. Follow it deep into the hole. Yeah, don't worry about it. The unknowns learn, and now we know. It's a big ordeal. It's a global orders game. Not a game, this is real. The fight for all humanity. Learn to read the map. Learn to spot the signs. You look between the cracks. Connect all the lines. We are sheep no more. The calm before the storm. Let's cut the puppet master strings. MSM lost control. They thought they had our minds, but now we're waking up. We're running out of time. The great awakening is happening. So be ready. Finally be strong in God and in His mighty power. We struggle not against flesh and blood, but against evil rulers and their dark powers. So therefore put on the full armor of God, so when the day comes you can stand your ground. So stand firm, buckle up, buttercup. This is the final hour. Learn to read the map. Learn to spot the signs. You look between the cracks. Connect all the lines. We are sheep no more. The calm before the storm. Let's cut the puppet master strings. MSM lost control. They thought they had our minds, but now we're waking up. We're running out of time. The great awakening is happening. So be ready. So be ready. La 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 la. So be ready.
wonderful voice of Blue Eyes with Be Ready. And it's just interesting to see how she puts it all together there. Much love to Blue Eyes out there. And that is Be Ready.
Yeah, that was the first time I heard that, and it was interesting to hear some of the, the terms that not only do we hear from the Q team in their post, but terms that are played here on, or not played, but spoken about here on the Patriots Soapbox, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air to hear music, conservative music, not only from Blue Eyes that you just played, but from the Deplorable Choir in groups like that as well. Abe, we have about a little less than 8 minutes or so until we need to jet on out of here. I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on Monday, how the show went, and your thoughts on the interview with Sam Williams. It definitely sounds like you and him could have a sit-down conversation over an adult soda or two.
Man, it was I really enjoyed the conversation, Indy. So, just personal thank you for to bring somebody like him to the channel so that we could have that important discussion. And so really everyone out there, if you guys can give a shout out to Indy and a much love to Indy for his hard work behind the scenes here. I really do appreciate everything you do, man. And I think we've developed into a good team, man. We've been able to bring good guests on and get good discussions out of them, and that's both of us working together. So God bless you, Indy, for all you do for the channel and for our show. I look forward to the rest of the week. If you could highlight the rest of the week guests that we have here, I think we're going to have a lot happening here in the very near future. I think we're right up against the FISA IG report. We're likely to see some stuff happening there. AG Barr being in DC recently, I think is maybe the final step towards D-Class and starting to get this stuff out. I think it'll drive the news crazy, and it'll drive the narrative without a mistake. So it's really good stuff there as well. I can't look forward to this next phase, Indy. We're past time, is it not?
You caught me in the middle of a yawn, but yeah, it sounds like going through the chat that Maria Bartiroma kind of hinted that we may be getting a early Christmas present, and IG and FISA could be as early as the first week of December. So hopefully that comes to fruition. I know we keep throwing dates out around, so I kind of take it with a grain of salt. But Maria is a very reliable source in that. Highlighting the rest of the week, tomorrow, tomorrow's Tuesday, so that can only mean one thing, that Todd Huff of the Todd Huff Show on Freedom 95 here in Indianapolis, or if you listen from your computer at toddhuffshow.com, he's going to join us with our weekly discussion around the bottom half of hour number 1 tomorrow. And then on Friday, we have 2 guests for you, along with Open Line Friday. So hopefully we can get to as many calls from the Patriot Nation as we can. But Friday is our normal discussion with Dilly. Everybody knows how that goes. He's always fired up for a Friday. And then 2, I have gotten Chris Cruz. Now, I don't know how many people follow the Blaze and Glenn Beck, but Chris Cruz is the media producer for Blaze TV and for the Blaze. He is going to be coming on Friday, the bottom half of hour number 2. So it's going to be interesting to have someone from another decent media company, the Blaze, who they're together with the Conservative Review. Mark Levin is on the Blaze, along with Phil Robertson, and I believe Louder with Crowder's on there, and then Glenn Beck as well. So definitely tomorrow, our discussion with Todd Huff is always great, and then Friday we have a back-to-back interview slate with author and life coach Brendan Dilley, and then Blaze TV media producer Chris Cruz will be with us on Friday.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanna really pick his brain on what it's like to work over at the Blaze. people have their strong opinions about Glenn Beck, like they do pretty much everything else out there. It's kind of it can be a contentious issue. The reality of it is some of the information that Glenn has put out there is not meant to be released to the general public. Some of the original stuff he talked about, the targeting of the Islamic State and their goals, people looked at him like he was crazy when he put it out there, and you look back at it, it has all come true. Some of the stuff he's released recently, again, has been top-notch and very well done. And so I have a lot of love for Glenn Beck. I don't really care what everyone else thinks about him. I appreciate the work he's done out there. People can be so polarizing on topics and, always pointing fingers at others and no tolerance for any kind of something that they don't agree with. I don't know what's happened there with that. Anyways, let me drop.
Before you go, and Storm Rider in chat beat me to it. You were speaking about the content that Glenn Beck is putting out. The video he released over the weekend, the Democratic Hydra. Definitely listen to that and watch that, because I have to commend Glenn Beck not only on that content that he pushed out, but he also, if you were watching it live, he released on social media at the same time documents that backed up exactly what he was talking about. And if you go on glennbeck.com and you look for that video that's on there, the links to all of those documents that Glenn Beck and his team did research on to put that content out are all there for your viewing pleasure as well.
Yeah, he has done a lot of really hard work, and will he look back and say he's made some mistakes? Of course, we are all human; we all make mistakes. But to write somebody off and have the vitriol that you have towards people is just it's a sad state of affairs that we're in America. That's my personal take on it. Drop my Twitter feed out there, guys. I'm still trying to get my Windows and my computer fully back up to speed, and I could use some help. Financially on that front. If you can help me out, I hate begging, I hate asking. If you can help me out in some way to get Windows reactivated on this computer and help me with the new hard drive that I had to get installed thanks to freaking Windows and their update, I'd appreciate it. There's my feed out there, information on how you can get a hold of me. Here is the show closer. God bless you all. Much love. Have a great evening here on the channel. And we will see you guys tomorrow.
I used to open up my eyes and not be afraid of what I might find. Now I don't even want to take a step outside. But I open the door anyway. Somebody's gotta stand up and face corruption and chaos before it's too late to change. What's the point of trying to cover it up when there's something that we can do about it? We can drown out the hate, but leave this place better than we found it. Broken families and broken dreams, shattered hearts in disbelief, turning a blind eye to those in need. It's no one's problem till it's all they see. And this is all I see. I won't stay silent. My voice is gonna be heard. Nothing's black and white anymore.